All right. If you watched our previous video on FMList.org, you know the basics. You know how to navigate My FM and how to create a location, how to log, how to do a band scan, how to see the maps, how to sort by propagation and find those PI codes and all the other stuff we talked about. Now, let's take it to the next level. These are the top 5 features you should be using right now on FMList.org.
5.
All right, let's start with our number 5 most handy feature that you should be using right now on FMList.org. That is the visual logbook. We talked a bit about it in our initial introductory video. And you would go to logbook up here at the top and click on visual logbook, and that's going to show you a visual representation of whatever you logged that day, whatever date you chose. But there's more to these maps than that. We're going to zoom out a bit, okay? So let me actually just click on this link right here that says show all logs. So if I click on that link, number 1, it's going to show me on that date, which in this case was 4/1/2025, it's going to show me all logs submitted by all DXers on FMList on that date worldwide. Right now, it's 485 total logs from 46 DXers. And so if I zoom my map out a little bit, you'll see here some North American US stuff. If I go over here to Europe, boy, howdy, were they having some fun, including over here in Eastern Europe and all over here in Western Europe as well. So they were definitely getting in some Tropo action here in Europe on this day. So you can definitely kind of see here the benefit of using these visual logbooks, these maps to help you identify when there is an opening, and when there was an opening, kind of who was hearing what, right? Where were the paths? What were the things that were open? On this particular date, on 4/1, we had a nice little opening here, Tropo-wise, into this part of the interior Gulf South. There was a little bit of Tropo going on up here in Kansas and so forth. So depending on what date you choose, and I'm going to go back in time here, we're going to take you to one of my favorite eSkip openings of all time. This was May 31st, 2023. So if I go here to May 31st, 2023, we're going to look at all the logs that were submitted that day. And it's going to be a bunch, 4,621 logs, 175 different contributors. Again, the black antenna is the DXer, the red, the orange FM is the DX that was heard. So there was so much going on here, you can't even see all the DXers inside here, underneath all the FM stuff. And you can actually see like the outlines of the states here. That's how many stations were heard. You can narrow this down a little bit if you say, I just want to see sporadic E, for instance, which most of this is going to be sporadic E, so it's not going to make a huge difference. And you can also say, I only want to see logs from people in like my area. Like for my case, I'm in the US, so I want to see America first, North America, North Canada, Mexico, things like that. So they're going to show me North American logs here. Just like before we showed you, if I scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the full list of logs that were submitted here. You can also do this one here, this log player. It's pretty cool, I think. If you click on log player, what it's going to basically do is it's going to give you a visual representation of the actual opening. So let's just say I go in here and I go, let's see, this started around 1500. Actually, let me go back to the 23rd of 2023, rather, the 31st of May. I remember this one very, very well. So we're going to run this. You can already see kind of here. I want to show both donuts and path. So we're going to start this a little bit before here at 1400 UTC to, it was around noon, so 1600. We're going to zoom out a little bit so you can actually see minute by minute all the stations that were logged. The donut, the eSkip donut, which is that FMList feature that kind of approximates who should be experiencing sporadic E conditions based on the paths that are being reported, right? With the center being kind of the idea of that's where the cloud probably is. And when you have multiple paths that cross, that gives you a pretty clear indication of where the path is. Like you got a nice little path opening up right here. Well, guess what? That eSkip cloud is probably right in here. But this shows you a minute by minute breakdown of the opening. So it's really, really cool to be able to see how the opening actually went. Did you see the cloud move? Did you see that propagation change from time to time? So you'll actually be able to watch it over here in this time frame as it goes along, and you'll be able to see, okay, wow, so we're up to 1530 here, and things are still kind of cooking, and there's still stuff being heard. It's really, really cool. So this is a handy little thing that I like to use. Again, if you're in the visual logbook, it is the log player up here at the top. You just change your date, change your time, your start time, your end time. Again, that's UTC. And go nuts. 4. The next cool feature that you should be using on FMList.org is the ability to filter your station list by bearing. This is so cool. So let's just pretend I'm sitting here on 94.1 and I'm having an E-skip opening. So I'm going to click on my E propagation button here. And let's just say I'm getting stuff out west of me. Okay. So I'm going to say northwest. So I click on this button right here under azimuth. You have a couple of preset buttons. I'm just going to click on northwest. And that's going to show me anything between west and north. If I click on west, it's going to give me a little bit of a buffer around that kind of 270, basically from southwest to northwest. But if I click on northwest, it's going to give me everything from west to north, right? So kind of a 90-degree swath. And it is now filtering down, only showing me stations that are in that bearing range from my location. You can further cement this down, kind of filter down even further. So let's say there was an opening a few years back that was basically everything between 15 degrees and 45 degrees. It was a very tight little 30-degree window that I was hearing. So I'm going to say between 15, and then I click off, and I'm going to say 45, and then I click off. And now it's filtered down this one frequency for me, and it's only showing me stations that are in that 15 to 45 degree range. This is super cool and helpful during an E-skip opening or even Tropo. Let's say I'm only getting Tropo to my west. All right. So I'm going to go over here and click on Tropo, and I'm going to say, show me stuff to my southwest. Let's say I'm getting down into Mexico and Texas from here. Well, now it's going to filter that down for me, and it's going to only show me stuff to my southwest, so between 180 and 270 degrees. So from due south to west. And that's all it's going to show me is stuff that's Tropo range in that direction. How cool is this? It makes it so much easier to navigate through that list of possible options and be able to say, I bet that's who that is I'm hearing. I bet that's KDLK in Del Rio, Texas that I'm hearing right now. And then if you're listening, you kind of know what to listen for. And if you hear that ID that's giving you an idea that it's a KDLK, guess what? You can log it and move on to the next. This helps so much during an event to narrow down that station list for more efficient scrolling and finding of your stations. And then once you're done, if you want to unfilter that, all you have to do is come up here to the top of the page, and where you see here where we have our bearing that's been put in, just click on the all button next to it, and it's going to unfilter that, and it's going to give you the full range from 0 to 360. Super easy. 3. The next feature that I think you should be using on FMList right now is a super fast way to take the logs that you've submitted onto FMList, export them out so you can put them into your own logbook, especially if you're running a spreadsheet logbook like I do. So as an example, let's say I go over here to my logbook at the top of the page, and I just want to take everything that I've heard so far in 2025. I want to make sure that I haven't missed anything and forgotten to put something in my logbook, my personal logbook. So I'm going to look at everything that I have submitted to FMList so far in 2025, and I'm going to export this out and just do a comparison. So all I have to do is I choose the date, or in this case, the year that I want to look at. You can also choose a specific date if you want to. And then once you've found the logs that you're looking for, click on Export CSV, and it creates a CSV file for you, exporting all this data that you see right here. If you don't want the CSV, you can also just highlight and copy and paste it directly into a spreadsheet if you'd rather go that route. And then once you have the data handy, then all you have to do is kind of clean it up a little bit, and then you can copy and paste it directly into your logbook. You don't have to worry about manually typing all that stuff in. It's right there. Pretty much everything you need is right there. Depending on if you're like me, I have a way more fields that I track. So I'm probably having to go back in and add some more, but at least these fields, the propagation, the date, the time, the frequency, the country, the city, the state, the call sign, the distance, power, bearing, all those that I track. Did I decode RDS or not? I track all that. All those are already populated. So for me, I'm just filling in the rest, right? So it makes it much, much quicker for me to be able to go in, especially after an event. If there were a large number of logs, I can go in much, much quicker and just export this out into a CSV, import that into my spreadsheet, or just copy and paste it directly in, and then I'm good to go. So much easier than typing it. And since logging on FMList is so fast and efficient, I've saved myself time on the original entry of logging it during the event. I've saved myself time of entering it into my personal logbook. I'm running super efficient, and I'm running lean and ready for that next DX event.
2.
The next feature that I think you should be using on FMList.org is called Comforts. Now, I want to preface this by saying this is probably not something that you want to do during a sporadic e-opening, like a bigger sporadic e-opening, because it can be resource intensive on the FMList servers and things like that. So it can kind of bog down the site if all of us are using this feature during a big opening and everyone's logged in at the same time. But if you're doing like a recording review, this is super helpful. If it's a smaller thing like a Tropo opening where there's not as much, as many people logged in at the same time, I love Comforts. What is Comforts? Well, quite simply, if I just go over here to my page and I just show all my logs or all my station lists, right? If I click on Comforts, it's going to highlight for me anything I've heard and anything I've logged before. So if I'm keeping very diligent on making sure that I'm logging everything on FMList that I'm also putting in my logbook, all I need is this one thing right here to look and see, do I already have that station? I don't have to go look at my logbook. I don't have to go searching through my spreadsheet or call up a search bar or anything like that in my, like a script in my Google Sheets or whatever to be able to search for that station. I just look at FMList and I can visually see it. A couple things about that. You'll see there's yellow and there's orange. Orange means I've heard it today. It's a current active log that I have submitted on this day. Yellow means it's sometime in the past. You'll also notice there are times where you'll see things like, let me see if there's an example. Here we go. Here's Lakeland, Florida. The city is yellow, but the L over here on the side is not. Where up here, these are, right? So you see over here, these yellow L's, that tells you that you've logged that station before. What this one does is it may mean that you've logged that station before, but it also means you've logged that city. And so if you've heard that city before, maybe you're hearing them again. Now, that's not as helpful for like past events, but it's super helpful. If I'm sitting here, let's say I'm on 94.1 and I hear the station in Kentwood, Louisiana, but then I go to another frequency and there's another station in Kentwood, Louisiana that I haven't heard, Kentwood is going to be in orange because that's telling me I've heard Kentwood today. And so there's a possibility I could be hearing them again today on this other frequency. So it could be that station in that same city that I've heard today that I'm hearing now, right? So it's a nice way to help you quickly identify who that is you may be hearing, so you can listen and know what to listen for when you're hearing those IDs come in. So let's just pretend Pensacola was here and that was orange because I just heard this Pensacola station, and I'm scanning through and I'm listening for other stations on other frequencies, and I see another Pensacola that's highlighted orange, but there's no orange over here. That's a new station I haven't heard that I might be able to hear now because I've already heard Pensacola once. Also, if I click here on the city name, it will actually tell you, I'm going to click on, let me just do Kentwood here as an example. So this is going to tell me any other stations that are located in that city, right? So if I do see that I have some cities that I'm hearing, like let's say it's a Tropo opening, I'm like, I want to hear what else is in Little Rock. I can click on that and it's going to give me a list of all the other stations in that city. So it's an easy way, if you're hearing DX from a certain area, to be able to clean up and go look for those other frequencies of other stations in that city that's you're already hearing already. You can look at that list of those available frequencies that are potentially going to bring you that city as well. Compare that to what you know about your band and see what's open, and it gives you a great target list to go after and just pick them off one by one. Super helpful. And that list also should show you anyone you've heard before. Like in this case, I've heard this station to be KSJ FM because I've got the yellow box. I have not heard Most of these I've heard. These are all HD stations that I haven't heard. I've heard most of these. Here we go. Bay Minette WNSP. I haven't heard this one yet. So I could go, if I'm hearing some of these other stations here, I could go to Bay Minette here on 105.5 and see if I hear them. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. But at least it gives me an idea to identify that as a possibility and then go get them. Super, super cool feature. 1. And the number one, handiest, dandiest, coolest, bad mofo feature you should be using right now on fmlist.org is the e-alert. This is by far and away the coolest part about using FMList. All this other stuff we talked about in our first video and this one is super cool. But this is where it all comes in. So if you're submitting logs and I'm submitting logs and they're submitting logs, if we're all submitting logs during an event, especially we're talking about sporadic E here, we can actually have that send us an alert to let us know that sporadic E events are occurring and we may have a shot at being able to be part of it. So what you basically do is up here, you'll see this red box right here. It says ESA is off. Just click on that. Would you like to start the e-alert for this location? I click OK. And then it's going to say a confirmation email has been sent to your address. If you do not receive any confirmation, please check if your email address in FMList is correct and working. So click OK. And now it's going to be a green box. So now what's going to happen, we looked at that visual map earlier, right? Those donuts. So if I'm hearing Ohio, let's say, if I hear a station via sporadic E in Ohio, that's created a path between me and Ohio. If now, let's say there's a station, a DXer in Georgia hearing a station in Iowa. Now that's a path that's now crossed, right? So I have this location on this path. He's got this location on this path. So right here in the middle probably is somewhere where that eCloud is. So FMList knows this, right? And they map these out. They map these paths out. And it then draws a radius around that path in the center of your path. And the center of your path, it's going to have a little hole. And that's the donut hole. And that's where it estimates that the eCloud would be based off of, you know, if you're hearing 1,000 miles out, then about 500 miles in that path should be right about where the eCloud is. Estimate, right? Well, if that's the case, if I'm on that path, we talked about this, the person in Georgia hearing Iowa, right? They would also be able to potentially get in on that eSkip opening and hear off of that eCloud across that same shared center path that we have. So maybe the person in Georgia is hearing Iowa, maybe they're not hearing anything. It just depends on the eCloud itself. This is not a bulletproof silver bullet thing, right? But it at least gives you a heads up that, hey, there is a path right now that someone is reporting eSkip on. And based on that path, there's a possibility that you could have a path that crosses the same path that they just did, that shares that same center point with the log that they've already submitted. So you may want to go turn your radio on and go check and see if you're getting eSkip. Not guarantee that you are, but you may want to go check because there's a possibility that you could be seeing that path. And that's where then I go and I have bookmarked this last 30 minutes map right here. So you go to the visual logbook we looked at earlier, and you change this, the settings up here to show just last 30 minutes. Okay. You can also filter it down for just sporadic E and just America, but I changed it for just last 30 minutes and I bookmarked this. And so if I get that alert, basically I get that email saying, hey, someone just submitted a log. And based on that log, there's a path that you may be looking at here that could give you some DX. I come over here and I look at this map and I say, okay, where's the path? And maybe that path is someone over here is reporting something and it's like this way. And then for me, that path puts me out in the ocean. Well, that's not going to help me because if I'm crossing their same center line, the other end of that center line is water. So more than likely, I'm not going to hear. I'm still going to check, but more than likely, I'm not going to hear anything. Right. But let's say it's a path like we talked about, like the person here in Georgia hearing up here in Iowa. Well, now that's a path that I can cross and I could be hearing up here in Ohio or Pennsylvania or New York. Right. So it's about letting you know that there's a possibility. It's not guaranteed. And there are times where you're going to get that email and get excited and turn on your radio, hear nothing and get disappointed. It happens. But as long as you remember it is what it is, it's a heads up, right? It's just a nice little extra little heads up that there are some conditions being reported right now by DXers that may mean that you possibly could have some propagation as well. So you may want to go check it out. There are other resources that I use as well. So I have my RDS autologgers that I use that are constantly scanning the FM band and decoding the RDS decodes that it receives, and then sending them to rabbit ears to populate on this map. So I will also check this map and see, am I seeing anything? Okay, so somebody's seeing something that maybe means I might have some propagation, but is my autologger seeing anything? And if it is, no, I'm going to be much more diligent in checking my FM band, right? Maybe I wouldn't be if I don't see anything. I might be a little more like, let me check a couple frequencies, and if I don't hear anything, I'll just keep an eye on it. But if I'm seeing something on my RDS autologger, I'm going to go check that frequency that was received and a couple of others around that to see if I can get an idea. Is that opening still occurring? Was it short-lived? So forth. So that e-alert is something that I highly recommend that you sign up for. But the only way it works is if all of us are submitting logs to FMList. So if you're not submitting logs to FMList, no one's going to know that you're experiencing that sporadic e-opening. So my recommendation is the more people who are doing this, the more people who are submitting logs to FMList, more likely it is we're going to get these maps populated with some logs. And the more likely it is that, hey, I'm going to then notice, hey, there's an opening going on. Let me go see if I'm hearing anything. Oh, I am. I'm going to also submit some logs, and then I'm contributing data back. And so if I'm seeing this path and you're seeing this path and someone over here is seeing this path and someone over here is seeing that path, we're all sharing this path, this common center point. We've got a pretty good idea of where that cloud is. And now we know we've got a strong enough opening that multiple different directions are being able to take advantage of that. Sometimes it may be just that one path, and it may not even be bi-directional. I might be seeing Ohio, but they're not seeing me, and vice versa. That happens, right? But at least if we're submitting those logs, the e-alert has a chance to go out. You have a chance to take a look and see if you are experiencing propagation. And if you are, then you can be part of that as well by submitting more logs and feeding the data back in. That's it. That's how simple this is, but how awesome it is too. So now you have all the information you need to be an FMList.org pro. That means you're ready for this Northern Hemisphere sporadic e-season to come and submit tons of logs, populate that map with all kinds of paths and donuts and everything else, e-alerts flying out like crazy. I can't wait. And I hope that you take part and have a lot of fun with it this year. If this video has been helpful for you, we would love it if you give us a thumbs up on that. And a comment is also very helpful for the channel. And if you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon so be notified when new videos are available. From all of us here at DX Central, my friends, take care. 73, best of DX. Now let's go hit the bands.